There is a moment in every person's life, a quiet, still, almost invisible moment, where they stand at the edge of who they are and who they could become, and they make a choice. Not a loud choice, not a dramatic one, just a silent decision deep inside the chest that whispers either I can or I can't. And for millions of people all around the world, that whispered I can't has become the most expensive lie they have ever believed. Because here is something that most people are never told, something that schools skip over, something that society rarely celebrates, and something that the noise of daily life buries so deeply that it almost disappears completely. Your brain is not finished. It was never finished. It is not a locked room with a sealed door. It is not a stone statue carved once and left to stand forever in the same position. Your brain is alive. It is breathing. It is moving. It is reshaping itself right now, in this very moment, as these words travel through your ears and land somewhere deep inside your mind. And if you have ever looked at your own habits, your own patterns, your own struggles, and told yourself that this is simply who you are, that you were born this way, wired this way, and stuck this way, then what you are about to hear may be the single most important thing you have encountered in a very long time. The science has a name for this extraordinary truth. It is called neuroplasticity. And while that word may sound like something reserved for laboratory coats and academic journals, its meaning is breathtakingly simple and devastatingly powerful at the same time. Neuroplasticity is your brain's built-in, God-given, biologically guaranteed ability to change, to rewire, to rebuild, to form brand new pathways, dissolve old destructive ones, and literally reconstruct the way it thinks, feels, responds, and operates. This is not a theory. This is not a motivational metaphor. This is documented, peer-reviewed, rigorously tested neuroscience that has been confirmed by some of the greatest minds in modern medicine. Your brain, regardless of your age, regardless of your history, regardless of how many times you have tried and failed, regardless of how deeply you feel stuck, your brain retains the capacity to change. That is not an opinion. That is a biological fact. And yet, most people live their entire lives without ever being handed this fact. They grow up absorbing the old, outdated belief that the brain is fixed, that by a certain age, you are simply who you are, and the map of your mind has been drawn in permanent ink. This belief is not just wrong. It is harmful. It is the invisible wall that stops people from trying again after failure. It is the silent voice that convinces someone struggling with addiction, distraction, low motivation, or mental fog that their situation is permanent. It is the false foundation upon which entire lives of quiet resignation are built. And it is time, right now, in this moment, to tear that foundation down completely and replace it with the truth. Here is where the story gets even more personal, even more urgent, even more directly connected to the life you are living right now. In today's world, your brain is under a form of pressure that no previous generation in human history has ever had to face. Every notification on your phone, every scroll through a social media feed, every autoplay video, every algorithmically designed piece of content. Each one of these things is engineered with extraordinary precision and billions of dollars of research to trigger a specific chemical response inside your brain. That chemical is dopamine. And dopamine, in its natural state, is one of the most beautiful and necessary chemicals your brain produces. It is the chemical of motivation, of curiosity, of reward, of drive. It is what pushes you toward goals. It is what makes achievement feel meaningful. It is what gets you out of bed with purpose in the morning. But when dopamine is hijacked, when it is triggered artificially, repeatedly, rapidly, and endlessly by digital stimulation that delivers a constant flood of cheap, effortless reward, something deeply troubling begins to happen inside your mind. Your brain, in its incredible intelligence, begins to adapt. It begins to recalibrate. It lowers its own sensitivity to dopamine because it is receiving so much of it so quickly. And the result of that recalibration is a mind that slowly, quietly, almost invisibly loses its ability to feel motivated by real things. Real goals, real relationships, real work, real progress. The things that used to excite you begin to feel flat. The discipline that used to come naturally begins to feel impossible. The focus that you once had begins to feel like a distant memory. And you sit there, scrolling, consuming, stimulating, and wondering why you feel so empty. This is not weakness. This is not laziness. This is not a character flaw. This is neuroscience. This is what happens when a brain designed for a slower, deeper, more intentional world is suddenly dropped into an ocean of artificial overstimulation without any tools to navigate it. And this is precisely why the teaching and philosophy of Dr. Mindful Shift carries such profound relevance in the age we are living in. Because understanding what is happening inside your brain is the very first step toward taking back control of it. You cannot fight an enemy you cannot see. But once you see it clearly, once you understand the mechanism, once you hold the science in your hands like a map, everything changes. And that change, as you are about to discover, begins not with willpower, not with discipline, not with a perfect morning routine, but with a single, radical, beautifully simple decision to believe that your brain can be different than it is today. Now here is where everything gets deeper. Here is where the story takes a turn that most people are completely unprepared for, not because it is complicated, not because it requires a scientific background to understand, but because it reveals something about the human mind that is simultaneously terrifying and tremendously liberating. Are you ready for this? Because what you are about to understand is something that the majority of people walking this earth today have never been told, never been shown, and never been given the chance to truly grasp. And once you hear it, once it lands inside you the way it is meant to land, you will never look at your daily habits, your daily choices, or your daily struggles the same way again. The question is not whether your brain can change. We have already established that it can. The real question, the deeper, more urgent, more personally confronting question, is this: right now, today, in the life you are currently living, is your brain changing in the direction you actually want it to go? Because here is the terrifying truth that nobody puts on a motivational poster. Your brain is always changing. Always. Every single day, with every single choice, with every single habit, with every single hour you spend in a certain way, your brain is rewiring itself. The only question is whether it is rewiring itself towards strength, clarity, and purpose, or whether it is rewiring itself deeper into distraction, dependency, and emptiness. And for most people living in the digital age, the rewiring that is happening is not the rewiring they would choose if they truly understood what was occurring beneath the surface of their own minds. Think about what a typical day looks like for the average person in today's world. The alarm goes off, and before their feet even touch the floor, before they have taken a single conscious breath of the new day, their hand reaches for the phone. Within seconds, the scrolling begins. The notifications, the headlines, the highlights of other people's lives curated into perfectly stimulating, perfectly triggering, perfectly dopamine-activating content. And in those first few minutes of the morning, before the mind has had a single moment of silence, before the brain has had any space to orient itself, to gather itself, to remember its own goals and its own values and its own identity, it has already been flooded, already been hijacked, already been pulled into a current that will carry it through the rest of the day in a state of reactive, distracted, overstimulated half-consciousness. And then the evening comes, and the same person sits down and wonders why they feel exhausted but cannot sleep, why they feel busy but accomplished nothing meaningful, why they feel connected to hundreds of people online but profoundly lonely inside, why the goals they set with such hope and intention at the beginning of the year feel further away now than they did on the day they wrote them down. This is not a mystery. This is a mechanism. And mechanisms, unlike mysteries, can be understood, and once understood, they can be interrupted. This is the moment where dopamine detox enters the conversation not as a trend, not as a wellness buzzword, not as something you try for 3 days and abandon, but as a profound, neurologically grounded act of reclaiming your own mind. A dopamine detox, at its core, is the deliberate, intentional withdrawal from artificial overstimulation in order to allow the brain's dopamine system to recalibrate, to restore its natural sensitivity, to recover its ability to find motivation in real and meaningful things, to rebuild the neural pathways that connect effort with reward, patience with progress, and depth with satisfaction. And here is where the suspense reaches its peak, because this is the part that most people never stay long enough to discover. The detox is not the hard part. The withdrawal, the restlessness, the boredom, the strange discomfort of sitting in silence without reaching for a screen, that is not the enemy. That discomfort is actually the sound of your brain beginning to heal. It is the feeling of old, overstimulated pathways losing their grip. It is the sensation of your nervous system slowly, carefully, beautifully remembering what it feels like to simply be present. Most people mistake this discomfort for failure. They feel the restlessness and they reach for the phone. They feel the emptiness and they fill it immediately with noise. And in doing so, they step right back onto the wheel, never knowing that they were standing, in that very moment of discomfort, at the threshold of genuine transformation. The brain does not change dramatically all at once. It changes the way water shapes a canyon, slowly, consistently, drop by drop, day by day, choice by choice. And every single time you choose silence over scrolling, depth over distraction, patience over instant gratification, real human connection over digital simulation, you are making a deposit into the most important account you will ever own. You are investing in the rewiring of your own mind. You are participating consciously and deliberately in your own neurological evolution. This is what Dr. Mindful Shift has always pointed toward, not the dramatic overnight transformation, not the perfect detox plan followed flawlessly from day one, but the quiet, courageous, daily decision to choose differently than you chose yesterday. Because the brain does not need perfection to change. It needs consistency. It needs direction. It needs someone willing to keep showing up, keep choosing, keep believing. Even on the days when the progress feels invisible and the old habits feel magnetic and the voice inside whispers that it is not working. It is working. Even when you cannot feel it, it is working. And the proof of that is waiting for you, just on the other side of the discomfort you have been avoiding. There is a story that science tells, quietly and consistently, through decades of research and thousands of documented human transformations, and it is a story that deserves to be heard not just once, but repeated, revisited, and carried close to the heart every single day. It is the story of a brain that was written off by its owner, by circumstance, by years of accumulated habit and repeated failure, and then, slowly, stubbornly, miraculously, began to rewrite itself. Not because of a perfect plan, not because of ideal conditions, not because the person who owned that brain suddenly had more time, more resources, more willpower, or more favorable circumstances than anyone else, but simply because they made a decision. A real one. The kind that does not announce itself loudly or arrive with fanfare or feel particularly heroic in the moment. The kind that happens in an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, in a quiet room, when someone puts down the phone and picks up their own life instead. And from that single, humble, almost unremarkable moment of decision, everything begins. Not perfectly, not immediately, not without struggle or setback or days that feel like going backward instead of forward. But it begins. And beginnings, no matter how small, no matter how fragile, no matter how uncertain they feel in their earliest moments, beginnings are everything. Because nothing that exists today, no transformation that has ever taken place in any human life, started anywhere other than exactly where you are standing right now. You have to understand something about the nature of real change. The kind of change that is not cosmetic, not temporary, not dependent on motivation that comes and goes like weather. Real change is not an event. It is not a single dramatic breakthrough moment after which everything becomes easy and clear and effortless. Real change is a direction. It is the daily, unglamorous, deeply personal commitment to moving, however slowly, however imperfectly, toward the version of yourself that you know, somewhere beneath all the noise and distraction and self-doubt. You are fully capable of becoming. And the most extraordinary thing about neuroplasticity, the thing that should genuinely move you, the thing that should make you want to stand up and begin immediately, is this. Your brain does not require you to be perfect in order to change. It does not require a clean slate. It does not require you to have never failed, never relapsed, never fallen back into the old patterns you were trying to escape. Your brain requires only one thing from you, and that thing is repetition. Consistent, intentional, direction-driven repetition. Every time you choose the harder, deeper, more meaningful option over the easier, cheaper, more stimulating one, a pathway strengthens. Every time you sit with discomfort instead of numbing it, a connection deepens. Every time you resist the pull of artificial dopamine and return to the quiet, patient work of building something real, your brain becomes, in a measurable and permanent way, more capable of doing that again tomorrow. This is not poetry. This is the literal, biological, neurological mechanism of human transformation. And this is the heart of everything that Dr. Mindful Shift stands for and teaches. The understanding that the most radical act a human being can perform in the modern world is the act of returning to their own mind, of choosing, deliberately and repeatedly, to think rather than react, to feel rather than numb, to build rather than consume, to grow rather than simply scroll through the growth of others. In a world that is designed, at every level, to keep you distracted, to keep your dopamine system overstimulated, to keep you reaching and clicking and consuming without ever arriving at genuine satisfaction, the decision to detox is not just a health decision. It is a philosophical one. It is a declaration that your attention belongs to you, that your mind belongs to you, that the direction of your neurological evolution is something you are willing to take responsibility for, one choice at a time, one day at a time, for as long as it takes. And here is the beautiful, breathtaking, almost unbearably hopeful truth that ties everything together. It will not take as long as you fear. The brain responds faster than most people expect when the conditions are right. When stimulation is reduced and silence is allowed. When real effort is rewarded with real patience. When the dopamine system is given the space it needs to recalibrate. People begin to feel it. Not after months. Not after years. Within days, sometimes within hours, of genuine intentional detox, people begin to notice something shifting, a quietness returning, a clarity emerging, a motivation reawakening that they had almost forgotten they were capable of feeling. Small things begin to feel meaningful again. Real work begins to feel possible again. The future begins to feel like something they are moving toward rather than something happening to them without their participation. This is your moment. Not tomorrow. Not after one more scroll, one more video, one more distraction. Right now, in this moment, with this understanding alive inside you, this is where your change begins. Your brain is not your past. Your brain is not your habits. Your brain is not the sum of every time you failed to follow through. Your brain is a living, breathing, endlessly adaptable instrument that is waiting, right now, patiently and powerfully, for you to give it a new direction. Give it that direction. Choose the detox. Choose the silence. Choose the depth. Choose the version of yourself that you know is possible. Because it is not only possible, it is neurologically inevitable the moment you decide to truly begin. If you are benefiting from our topics, please subscribe, like, and turn on the bell notification so you can see our new videos early.